Welcome everyone to the Wednesday Night Live show. We got a lot to get into tonight with Travis and Jarrett, and that's Jarrett popping in right now.
Yeah.
Also, all our guests' links are in the header of this video, so you want to go check out these guys. Their links are all there to their Twitter and their websites. Before that, I wanted to make an announcement about We Vape, We Vote 22 bus tours. So I'm going to post the link in the chat, guys, for those that are interested in trying to catch up with these guys in some of these locations. And let me put that in there.
Amanda Wheeler's in the chat. She's watching.
Yeah, Amanda's there. And I'm going to go ahead and just really quickly go through the website. So you guys, I posted the link in there. You guys can head on over there. You can see the dates where the locations are and the dates. And it looks like where they're going to be next at Des Moines, right? Or where are they?
Started in AZ.
Yeah. And you can click. I thought it was kind of cool that I didn't notice it until I clicked on it last night, but it'll take you to the map. So you guys, for those that want to find out exactly where it's at, you guys can click on that link. It'll take you over to the second page here. It'll give you the dates and the times that they're going to be there, the location, and I give you a little map. And I think you can, transfer. Those usually can transfer to your cell phone, right, guys? I think most of them do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so head on over there, guys. If you're in these areas coming up the 13th, the 15th, the 17th, just click on your area, see where they're going to be, what time. Head on over there and support the cause, guys. That's it for that. And let's do our hellos real quick. Who's the guy in the middle?
I have no idea. I've never seen him before in my life, and I'm looking right at him. I've never seen him ever.
As the kids say, who dat? Who dat?
Who dat? And that's a Saints thing. Anyway, no, life is as per usual for me. Picked up a new air purifier. So, you get older and then, those kinds of things become the exciting. That and new carpet, new mats for the kitchen. So
Are you trying to hide your old man odor with using the purifier?
No, I'm just trying to come to the realization and living with full denial that I'm becoming my parents.
Yeah. And you have the dogs too. The dogs probably
they keep me sane because they're insane. So
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that's good. You're having a good week. Allison, how's your week going?
Going pretty good. Busy.
Good?
Same as usual.
Yeah, you've been busy. Are you going to be at one of these locations, Allison?
Yeah, they're coming to East Charleston in Charleston.
In Charleston. So that's what, October 24th?
Yeah.
Hey, get on over there. If I was there, I'd go to see Allison.
We're so excited.
Are you going to do any speaking?
Of course.
Oh yeah, cool. Cool. And Jerad is back. He's back, and I got 2 lawyer jokes for Jerad later on the show. It's tradition now. Allison made a note of it that it's tradition now, so I have to have. And these are good ones. They're good ones. You know how
well, I'd have been disappointed if you didn't have any more for me. And by the way, we're in the middle of moving. We're moving in December to another house, so everything's a little discombobulated here on my end. But so more of the mess back here.
No worries. That's good. That's good.
New judgment,
new beginnings.
Judgment.
Yeah, new beginnings, new start. Same city.
Same city in Houston, but we'll just a different house.
Nice. And Mr. Travis over there. How's your week going?
Man, it's almost over. So we're at the halfway point. So it's not too bad.
It's not
busy,
too bad.
That's for sure.
Busy. Are you going to be at any of these locations at all?
No, I don't even think they're coming through Texas. So
no, they're not. Yeah,
no.
I made a note that I was sad. I was crying that they weren't coming to California, but I understand your point. Your point.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody's trying to stay out of California right now. I don't know why. I think his name is Gavin Newsom. I think that's his name. Gavin Newsom. That's his name. Tim is going to start us off with something new. Tim, what are we calling this?
Well, we're calling it. Well, actually, no. Let me give credit where credit is due, and then do you want me to do my quick hellos to the chat?
Yeah. Do that.
Okay.
Yeah,
we'll do that real quick. So,
sorry, people. Sorry.
That's okay. You know what? We don't want. Hey, we got to recognize the viewers. They're the ones that keep this boat afloat, so to speak. So, Nicholas, good to see you. Shannon Brown, welcome to the show. Mallory Gates, as always, and Mallory's about to get some credit here in about 2 minutes. let's see, Nicholas, Daryl, good to see you back, Daryl. How are things going? Who else we got in there? I saw Amanda. I know Amanda's there. Amanda's hot out of Arizona there, coming in hot. And then I definitely saw a couple more. Michael Redfern, good to see you. How are you doing? And we got Pam Spraggins, and we have, God, there's so many of you. Amber Cooper, good to see you on the show, Amber. How are you this evening? And I think that's it. I think that's everybody that's actually typed. All right, so let's give Mallory the credit for this next segment. It's a newer segment. We're going to work on refining it. I'm going to take the lead on being the first guinea pig to try it out. I'm hoping that everybody that's part of the show on the regular can jump in on this one. But Mallory suggested we do a bit called Stupid Things Ants Say. So we thought that we would follow through on that premise. And I was like, well, you know what? I kind of had a run-in with a pretty regular person on Twitter here in the last week or so. I think most people know him. He's actually, I think he's from Kenya. His name is Joel Shunza.
Supposedly he's from
Supposedly,
Kenya.
I don't know. Sometimes you can't tell the trolls from the real people because he's not.
He's been trolling us for a long time.
He's not blue checked, but he is from. It claims he's from Kakamega, Kenya. Say that one 10 times.
Yeah, fast. And he's a prince, and he's going to send you an email asking for some money.
Right. So our fabled friend Lindsay Stroud had a post, and she was commenting on the fact that.
Wait a minute! Bumper.
Yeah, run the bump.
Their luxury homes and other ill-begotten gains of Putin's kleptocracy. Kleptocracy and the guys who are the kleptocracies. But these are bad guys.
Wait, what the fuck did he just say? All right, go ahead, Tim.
All right, so I'm going to share this just so everybody can see it. It's better when it's, and let me make it bigger.
Zoom it.
Yeah, I'm going to go in. All right, so Lindsay had a little thread running basically about a small vape shop that was getting ready to get a quote unquote package from the FDA. So there was other commentary. She actually had several on the thread. But then, of course, Joel jumps in, decides he's going to make his brutal comment, and he just goes mega generic. Just like a lot of them do. Most e-liquid nicotine and nicotine pouches companies and advocates do business and advocacy for big tobacco. Well, several people say this, but that's one of the most stupidest comments that anybody could throw out there, because there's absolutely zero proof behind that. And the world that we come from is not even remotely closely attached to big tobacco. If he's talking about Juul and Juul alone, well, then fine, he might have an argument, and the people that advocate for them. So, I asked him for proof. Okay. I said, if you're going to make the claim, go ahead and prove it to us. I mean, go ahead and wow us with this amazing data. So this is where he comes back. All right. And I retweeted this later on today because I'm like, you got to be joking me. So this was his comeback. All right. So rather than offer proof, and he says, not every one of us can be a researcher. I purely listen to the WHO, WHO, Ministry of Health in Kenya, and reliable partners such as Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids. I will change the song when they do. Not all of us can be researchers. I stand solidly behind reliable authorities. So I took that to my page, and he just got ripped to shreds. But the first comment below that, Charles jumps in and he goes, so when the WHO promoted drug prohibition in the 1980s and 1990s in many countries around the world, were executing people who had substance use disorders based on WHO recommendations, you would have supported those murders? Yeah. So he gets called out. I mean, basically, he just inserts himself into the wrong conversations. But all things considered, he says plenty of stupid shit on his own, and we take care of that when he does that as well. So at any rate, I was kind of hoping.
Does he go on just everybody's posts?
Yeah.
Is this somebody? Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's one of those ants that just likes to insert his benign commentary into our conversation because he seems to think that because of the reliable sources that he listens to, all of us advocates and companies out there are part of big tobacco, which is just a falsehood. So there you go. That's your boy. If you want to follow somebody on Twitter and pay attention to what poop falls out of their mouth, there's your boy right there. Joel,
he's an inspirational speaker.
That's what he says. Yeah, I found tons of inspiration in what he had to say in that.
All 584 of his followers are super inspired.
Exactly. Yeah. He's a juggernaut on Twitter. So
he forgot to add Prince. Forgot the right.
Anyway,
Yeah.
another goober. All right.
All right, thanks for that, Tim. I think that's going to be a fun segment. Once I'll start looking a little more into that.
One or two per person.
Yeah.
We can have a field day. We can divvy it up.
Yeah.
Somebody can take Pave. You can take somebody else.
I don't want Pave. Nobody wants Pave. Jared and Travis, what good news do you bring us?
I think Travis is muted.
He's muted. There you go.
Well, I said I would let Jared start, but the best news that I have is we're suing the government. So anytime we're doing that, that's good news, I guess, right?
That's the only way we're going to get their attention. I think that's about the only way you get anybody's attention is by suing them. But
right.
Go ahead, Jared.
Yeah, it's true. So the big news is we finally dropped our RFA lawsuit, and by drop I mean filed. Dropped the
hammer.
Dropped it in the court. And so I filed it in the Eastern District of Texas, which I think is a good. Gave us a good chance there are only 2 judges there in that district, and it's in Sherman, Texas, North Texas, kind of, if anybody knows where Plano is, it's north of Dallas, and Sherman is a little bit north of Plano. So it's between Dallas and Oklahoma, a small town. So it's there's only 2 judges that serve that court. But both of them would have been good. Both of them have, what we're looking for is a judge that takes these things seriously.
Yeah.
Because, you file it in a lot of places like Houston or any big city, you've got a big mix of judges, and some of them have a reputation for being serious and applying the law. And some, and some of them, of course, have their ideological preferences, and some of them have a reputation for not being serious at all, or just reflexively going on the side of the government in a case like this. So, we were fortunate. The USVA has enough members that I was able to have, some options and where to file.
Yeah. So let me ask you a quick question about that. So it does matter who's filing and the location, correct? But since they have members scattered all over the country, you could pick different locations that will benefit, your petition or your lawsuit, right? Is that how it works?
Yeah. I mean, you've got to have the way the venue statute works in federal law. You have, as long as you have a plaintiff, generally, as long as you have a plaintiff in the district, it doesn't matter where the other plaintiffs are, you can file in any of those districts. And again, I don't want anybody to take this to mean that this is a sure thing because of a judge we got or not, but both the judges in this district are have a good track record and a good sort of career record showing that they're serious people that have the wherewithal and the interest in really looking at the argument we're going to make. And that's important because the RFA, the Regulatory Flexibility Act, has been in the law since 1980, but it's not been litigated a lot. And we can get into, some of the reasons for that. But we're making, there have been RFA cases before, and there have been plaintiffs that have won against the government, including last year, actually, a case against the FDA where the DC District Court, it was a pharmacy case, a group of small pharmacies, compounding pharmacies, won an RFA challenge against the FDA. So, this is not completely new territory, but it is not, there are not a lot of cases out there. And, there are pros and cons to that scenario. But so both these judges would have been good. And it landed in Sean Jordan's court, Judge Sean Jordan. He's a new judge appointed by Trump, I think, last year. And he was a longtime lawyer in the Texas Solicitor General's office, which is like not to get too far in the weeds, but the Solicitor General for the state or for the federal government is a very top flight legal office. It's kind of like an appellate law firm within the government, right? So like those are the guys who represent the state of Texas in high profile appeals. So typically when somebody's bit comes from that office, they've got a good academic pedigree. They're a serious lawyer, kind of a nerdy kind of lawyer who likes to get into the weeds and these kind of things. And that's exactly what we want.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a good chance too for. I mean, even the judges, they're always looking to better themselves and move up the ladder and become Supreme Court judge or whatever. This is something good for their whatever you want to call it, their resume, having something like this behind them.
Well, I mean, I think in the regard of this particular guy, I think I'm not trying to make a connection to any particular administration, but I would say probably plays favor just because would you say falls more on the conservative side?
Well, he does. He's a Federalist Society member. He worked under Ted Cruz in the Texas Solicitor General's office. So conservative pedigree, and do people? I don't know if your audience really cares about the Federalist Society. In certain circles, the Federalist Society has reputations that are good or bad. I'm a FedSoc member. A lot of federal judges are. A lot of the it's sort of it's not ideological, but it attracts people who are nerdy kind of appellate lawyers who care about government overreach and constitutional law. And so that's exactly what we want. And yeah, he is a conservative sort of pedigree in his legal resume. So I think we're in a good district. And again, it's no guarantee that we're going to win. I think it's a difficult argument regardless of where we are. Because it's always difficult when you're suing the government, and the burden is on us to reach a certain hurdle. But, when we get to it, I'm happy to explain, just sort of big picture how I feel about it and, what type of argument we're making. And I feel good about it.
Yep.
Okay. Go ahead. Anybody else got a question? Because I just was thinking out loud because, we've got a handful of people here that are in the chat. Maybe they don't understand what the Regulatory Flexibility Act is. Obviously, we're talking about it in the context that it's going to apply to vaping regulation. But Jerad, can you just basically break down what the Regulatory Flexibility Act is in its layman's terms?
Sure. And again, it's not been litigated a lot, so but I'll just explain what the idea is and sort of what the argument is. So it was a law passed to sort of, in this era when there were several executive orders, especially later when Reagan came into office. He issued some additional executive orders that also may be relevant here. But the Regulatory Flexibility Act and these subsequent orders were, this effort to codify some protections for protections against overregulation. It was an era in which like the pendulum was swinging towards, trying to ratchet back some overbearing government regulations, the regulatory state. And so it's a procedural statute. The RFA itself requires any time that a new rule is passed by any federal agency. So it doesn't deal just with the FDA. This is just it was an amendment to the Administrative Procedures Act, and it requires every federal agency to, when they're considering a new rule, they have to certify whether or not it will have a substantial impact on a significant number of small businesses. And if they certify that it will have that impact, then they have to go through some analysis of alternatives to the rule that would meet the statutory, that would meet the aims of the statute that they're trying to implement, but in a less burdensome way. And so it's a procedural statute. It doesn't require the agency to adopt a less burdensome alternative, but it requires them to go through the analysis. And in a nutshell, the problem here is that the FDA basically, it was the way they actually certified that the PMTA final rule would not have a significant impact on a substantial number of small businesses. If you can believe that.
Yeah.
And the way they did it, I think was basically a sleight of hand that that really well, I'll get in more into the argument later, but that's what it does. It requires them to consider less burdensome alternatives in a nutshell.
You're muted, Timmy.
I just caught it. I saw the big pink button. So that could come in the form of monetary impact, meaning, I guess what I'm saying is less burdensome, meaning like money to pay for the filings for the PMTAs, or, and in turn then risk those businesses from going out of business because of the money that they got to come up with.
Yeah, that can certainly be part of it, or maybe the largest part of it. Let me see if I can actually. I might be able to quote you the standard, but yeah, it goes directly to the impact, the economic impact on. Okay, so the requirement is, as part of their certification, the agency has to include, quote, a description of the steps the agency has taken to minimize the significant economic impact on small entities, consistent with the stated objectives of the statute. And, basically, so requires them to analyze the factual, policy, and legal reasons that they arrived at the regulatory burden that they impose, right? So it doesn't say you have to choose a less burdensome alternative, but it says if you have to explain why you did what you did, if it's going to impact small businesses.
Right. And also with that, this is something that we'll also arrive to, and I think, some folks here that are in the chat and other trade organizations, whenever Trump was requiring a review, and they were putting forth during the vape apocalypse from September 11th to November 11th, and they were scheduling OMB meetings for all of us to go there and have our comments and sit down and talk about what they were putting forth for the open comment period. I don't know if I know a couple of folks had caught this, and I think Troutman was one, and maybe a few others that I'm missing. But every time the SBA filed a response to this, they turned around and canceled all of the meetings and basically just scratched it all out again. We started noticing that, like, why are they doing this? What's going on with it? And that's what really led it into to kind of let us know that we had a lot more here than just knowing of the RFA from 2015. So yeah. That was interesting to see in that, and that's where I think Jared's probably going to lead into with all of this stuff to kind of see we've seen that breadcrumb, and now we're kind of following it back to see if we can have the argument, and I think he's got it. So, and I'll let you continue, Jared. Sorry, I just wanted to point that out real quick.
Yeah. So Travis had noticed this in the early on in the regulatory process with the deeming rule, and not to tie anybody to this lawsuit who doesn't intend to be tied to it, but I think credit where credit is due. I mean, there were other people after the SBA. Small Business Administration filed their official objection to the PMTA rule, which they did. And this is where the nugget of this argument comes from. The SBA has the obligation to sort of, or the authority under the statute to sort of be a watchdog for small businesses. And they filed their objection to this rule back in 2019, pointing out basically what is now our case, so they're saying this is a sleight of hand. The FDA's certification that this is not going to have an impact on small businesses is absurd. And so they gave some details behind that and filed it as an official comment. After that, there were several people who raised this to us as well. I think Mark Anton of Safada at the time, and Greg Troutman. So, again, I'm not trying to speak for them or tie them to this lawsuit, but I did want to point that out. And, so this is something that has been noticed by several people. And it's a very interesting argument. And I think we're going to have some legs to it. It'll be a nice fight.
How long do you think this whole process is going to take once it gets started? That's what I'm kind of curious.
Well,
That and how do we follow this? How do we follow this once it gets going once you get into court? How can us, the normal Joe, keep tabs on what's going on? Is there a way?
Yeah, well, a couple of
post
things
updates.
that we'll do. I'm sorry, Allison, you going to jump in?
No, I was saying we'll definitely be posting updates as we get them.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, and so I think a couple of things that I have in mind that we should do, and when I have a high-profile case like this, often what I'll do is I have a page set up on my website for featured cases sometimes, where I post some of the important documents as we go along, and sort of update where we are in the process. So that'll be a place which is a permanent repository where people can access the pleadings and the arguments. Yeah. So because, to go to a final judgment, it could be a couple years. There could be appeals involved.
That one?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
And just so people know that I don't have the page up yet.
Yeah.
But we'll have it up soon. And
that doesn't mean they can't go and click on it and check you out.
No, yeah, they can. And I haven't updated that featured cases part for a while, but I'll update it with this and some other cases, and so they can go there for the documents. The USVA Facebook page and Allison on Twitter for the USVA account will be, of course, tweeting and posting about any developments. To go to final conclusion, that could take years. There could be appeals involved. But I think at least I already know some folks are in the beginning stages of enforcement threats from the FDA. So I'm virtually certain we'll be moving for a preliminary injunction, which would give us a chance at relief while the litigation goes on. So that could be filed and even decided within weeks. We got it filed last week. Now I'm following up with folks, and we'll decide when exactly to take that step.
What is the likelihood that the government or the FDA just says, we don't want this fight?
I think
give me.
I think very, very slim chances that they'll say that. I'll say
slim to none, right?
Even when I think I have the government agency dead to rights, it's the government. They're playing with somebody else's money and they don't care.
Yeah.
Yep.
They're playing with our money.
Yeah. They're playing with our money.
Our money.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. From their perspective, it's not out of their pocket, right?
Yeah.
The people making the decisions, they don't care. That's why there's so much corruption.
Yeah.
So they'll make frivolous arguments.
Yeah. I was just curious to see if they feel like they're backed up against the corner, that they would likely just step back and say, "Okay."
Yeah.
Well, I think but there's a chance. I don't think they're going to do that voluntarily, but there's a chance we force their hand soon in this process. So, it all depends on what the judge does when we move for an injunction.
Yeah.
So a question I've been getting a lot recently is, can a trade organization join monthly as a member and be covered under the suit?
I got that question already from somebody else, and so it's a great thing to address. So short answer is no. A trade association under the tax code is an association of businesses. I think the only way to be safe in terms of how relief would work in a case like this is members of the trade association ought to be businesses themselves. That's the only safe way to do it. And frankly, I don't think there's a case out there that decides this question exactly. I don't think there's a case that says yes or no, like a trade. Can the right to relief flow from one organization through another one and to the ultimate business? I doubt that's ever been litigated. But if you're a business out there, you don't want to take that chance.
Right.
Would be my thought.
And also, when is the last date that you can sign up to be a member to be covered under the blanket of the USVA?
So this also sort of is caveated, and I'm going to tell you just the whole answer right now. The safest thing to do would be for, if you're not already a USVA member, to join in October. I think what Travis and the USVA and Amber, the membership coordinator, are working on is to make clear to folks and in the membership agreement that as long as you are a member, as long as you're a paid member in good standing in any given month, on any day in that month, your membership is considered good back to the first day of that month. So for the entire month. And the reason this is important is because we filed the lawsuit right before the statutory limitations period ran. So the rule, and that you have a year after the lawsuit, a year after the PMTA rule was published, to file this suit as a pre-enforcement suit. If somebody gets an MDO later under the final rule, they could challenge they could bring an RFA challenge themselves later. But in terms of bringing it at this juncture, pre-enforcement, the deadline has passed. That was October 5th, and we filed the lawsuit October 4th. So what the USVA is offering, or is going to make clear in the membership agreement, is if a business joins during the month of October, the organization itself determines what constitutes membership status, and you'll be considered a member during the month of October, which will put you in membership status before the lawsuit was filed. And
right.
I frankly, people, if somebody doesn't hear this and they can't join this month, I would still recommend that they join further down the road. And the reason is, I don't know what arguments the FDA is going to make. I'm not, let's say we get an injunction or we get a final judgment 6 months from now, or 2 months from now, or 1 month from now. I don't know that the FDA is going to take any aggressive action to look, to figure out who's a member and when did they join.
Right.
But as a lawyer, I'm always trying to think ahead in terms of, to plan for those contingencies. So the best thing to do as a business would be to join the USVA as a member in October, so that you can claim your membership status and prove it if necessary during the month, before the lawsuit was filed.
All right, quick question a quick question. Is there any way to support the USVGA without being a member? Is there a way to help support? Can our viewers somehow support you guys in any way as donations or anything like that? Is there going to be something like that, or is that even not possible?
Yeah, I believe up on the website there is a consumer donation where it's like $10 and on. So I'm really not too familiar with it. I'll get that exact answer and have Amber or Allison get that out there and just post that for folks. But yeah, I do believe it's there.
Okay, yeah, because I was just kind of curious, because that'd be something in a way for our viewers and others to support what you guys are doing and help you guys out. Because it all comes down to money, maybe.
Yeah, we definitely still have to raise funds because we need experts. Yeah. The more money we raise, the more solid the case will be, I think.
Yeah.
Well, Allison was reading my mind. I was just going to say, actually, this may be a case where we could do some real damage to the FDA with some experts of our own. Some people with some academic credentials and saying, this, like economic forecasters and kind of experts who would say, yeah, it's completely absurd. I would never, when you're trying to assess the impact of a regulation on a business, just to tear apart the FDA's analysis here, I think might be something that's possible if we get some experts. And so,
absolutely,
the more money in the tank, the more we can do with it.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm going to try to get your page up so I can show everybody that real quick, guys. They keep changing. Yeah, because that'd be great. I know nobody wants to ask for money, but this is something that's really important. Oh, donations right there at the top. Yeah, okay. So there you go, guys.
consumer
You
donation.
want to support the USVA and help them with this cause? This is something. $10, $10, guys. What is that? A cup of Starbucks and what else? Probably about it. And a cookie.
Yeah.
And a cookie.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, we've always tried to keep it to where, just as a group of small business owners and, really looking to work with people that are active and are just tired of the result that we've continued to get. That's a lot of our members. That's who, kind of steps that up and says, well, let's try something different. I'm passionate. I love the industry. Let's just think outside the box here. And that's how Jerad came into this. And, we're really lucky. He takes care of us, and he, every single member that's out there, if there's an issue and you reach out to him, he's quick to get back to you. If you're dealing with the FDA and they're in your shop and you don't know what to do, they want you to sign something, you're unfamiliar to sign it. Very, very easy. You can get in touch with me. I can get in touch with Jerad. Everybody can get in touch with him really quick. And he's there just to, give you the basics, because a lot of people, a lot of small business owners, obviously you're afraid of the FDA. You're afraid of what they can do. You're afraid that they're going to shut you down. So it's a form of tyranny and pressure, especially when they're standing there in front of you, wanting you to sign something, and they won't even give you a copy for you to read it, And so anytime any of those things happen, Jared's right there, and we kind of have a script and things put together for folks now. So, but
Nice.
it doesn't matter if it's a Sunday, doesn't matter, any which way, somebody's always there to answer your question. And, especially if the FDA and the pressure of the regulatory agency being inside your store saying a bunch of things that's confusing you, and they may be acting friendly. They may give you just completely false information, and it's all real head scratchers. And it's just a great time that as a member, anytime those things happen, you've got someone to reach out to. Yeah.
That's what we, yeah.
Yeah. I got to call the guy that's familiar with it, so, and that's what we've, unfortunately, all of us unexpectedly had to become very familiar with what the FDA's enforcement, policies are and procedures, and
Well,
a lot of
pretty
the stuff
soon
that
you're
we're
going to
seeing.
be Jared's paralegal pretty soon if you keep going.
No,
Zero time for that.
no, I'm not that guy. So, but no, it's one of those things, man. Like, with all of this, I think all of us have had to learn a lot of things that were not even in our realm of understanding. And now here we are, and it's complicated. And we're not going to beat them by screaming and yelling. And even though it's needed, don't get me wrong, that is needed. But we also know that lobbying directly to our Congress, to our government, to congressmen, talking senators, all of these things, all which is very important and needed. It's just not enough in any one thing. And I think that's where it looks to me that we're seeing something kind of shape up where there's a lot of good things going on with all of the trade organizations, and everybody's kind of moving and working off of each other and working with each other. And it's very, very encouraging to finally see a lot of this stuff come together for once, and I don't want to jinx it, knock on wood. So, but we're, it's really exciting to see, because I think out of everything, this year, especially with, like I said earlier, those breadcrumbs that were given, I really think that once we put more teeth into this, and we start getting those experts, those professionals that get in there that can really break it down, as Jerad said, because the more we can destroy their all of the things that they've come with us so far, because we've been on here before, and Jared's been on here before, and we've learned a lot through these challenges for the MDOs. And it's really kind of a point where we're putting all of this stuff together, and now we're kind of getting prepared for a good fight, so which is always fun.
I got a quick question. This question's for both of you, because Jared's kind of new to the vaping thing. But when you got first started in this, both you, Travis and Jerad, was there one piece of FDA regulations that you looked at for the first time and said, "What the fuck? How is this possible?" I mean, it's going to be different for both of you because you're the business owner and he's a lawyer. And so Jared's going to look at it a little differently and say, I can't believe they've been getting away with this crap. But what was the first piece of legislation or law that you read and you said to yourself, Jared, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, that was the deeming rule.
The deeming
rule. The exact date, I think it's 5/9 2016, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
So I read that, and that's the first thing that came to my mind. What the fuck?
Is that what sparked it for you? That was the beginning for you?
That honestly, reading that, and I'm not even joking with you in any little stretch of the word. Like, I had a buddy that he owned a vape shop in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and he and I are real close. We had a little group chat going, and he's the one that said, "What about the RFA?" The night that this was passed, right? And we started talking about it. Then the deeming rule comes out, and that's at that point, dude, just really seeing like the scope and the gravity of it all. But also at the same time, did see a lot of delays and deadline extensions and a lot of things that honestly I would expect, now more than any, but it's just not happening. So
yeah,
it was trickery.
How many holes did you have to patch in your walls that night?
Oh, I'm good on that now. Zero.
You're not the
Zero.
puncher.
Walls. No holes in walls. No holes in walls. No.
And how about you, Jared? What piece of legislation or regulations did you look at in the beginning and think, are you kidding me?
Well, I'll say, so the first thing was, we had this non-delegation case, and I was really the deeper I got into that, and this is a whole nother story we can get into later, and we may be revisiting later. But the deeming, well, not the deeming rule, but the deeming rule was only came about because Congress authorized it in the Tobacco Control Act in 2009. And when I read the statute, and read it in view of the case law on limitations on delegations, I was really shocked at how, like, as a constitutional litigator who does this, it's one of those things that's like a generational type argument where Congress really, it really has gotten so bad. The amount of authority that Congress has just punted away to this agency is really breathtaking. And I still stand by, if anybody, nobody can really verify this or contradict this unless they really read the cases and read the Fifth Circuit's decision in our non-delegation case. But I stand by my arguments in that case, and the Fifth Circuit, to their great, I don't want to say discredit, because the judges on that panel, a lot of times, throughout their careers or for most of their career, have been good judges, but they punted the issue also. It was completely superficial, which is not at all, not that surprising. But I mean, that's sort of another, legally, that was the actual authority in the Tobacco Control Act to give to the FDA to deem or not to deem any tobacco product to be subject to the TCA is just breathtaking. And when you read it in light of the case law, I believe it's illegal, even under the broad authority that has been upheld. But anyway, that's a case to be brought again in a different circuit, and I think it can still win. But I think, like, the other thing I would say is, just, I wouldn't pick one regulation. There are others, but what sticks out to me is that it is just the repeated and severe dishonesty and misrepresentation from agency officials the whole way through. And it started, like, for me, I got in this right around the time Valley was an issue.
Yeah.
And just watching how the FDA ignored the facts that were right before everybody's face. Anybody paying attention could see what was happening. And ultimately the truth came out, or at least, like, it became such that the FDA had to like turn its attention elsewhere, right? They dropped that whole issue. But initially they were pointing to those cases in the non-delegation case we filed at the very beginning. They were trying to milk it as much as they could when really any honest person with any kind of integrity would have to acknowledge that, there's something else going on there that's not like, it's not vaping writ large was the problem.
Yeah.
But that same sort of dynamic has continued through, through the enforcement policies, through ignoring the distinctions between open tanks and, disposables in terms of youth access. That's one of the arguments we actually won in the 11th Circuit, and thankfully, but that's it for me. Just the rank dishonesty.
Yeah, that's crazy. Why does the Bar Association Code of Ethics prevent sex between lawyers and their clients? to prevent clients from being billed twice for essentially the same thing. That's my lawyer joke. I got another one, but we'll save it. Timmy.
Yeah,
you got something on your mind.
Several things have cropped up during the last portion of the discussion. But first question. So, Jerad, you said you came in around the time that a Valley came out, and you said that you looked at, basically the transition and the handing off to the control of tobacco to the FDA. Does some of this and some of your disbelief go back to one of the original litigated cases? I think it was the Moose Juice case, I believe, is the one that was probably the spearhead for it all, when it was effectively the argument against whether or not the FDA had the proper person in place to actually submit or pass the deeming rule, or at least submit that. I'm curious if that thing can come back around, or was that brought to its finality and they basically said, nah, this understudy or whoever the fill-in was at the time.
Yeah, I wasn't involved in that case, but I followed it sort of on the surface, and my recollection is that went away because FDA and the court found that FDA ratified the rule, at the proper agency level. I've never litigated one of those particular cases, raising that argument. So, that may be one. I don't know. Those lawyers might tell you, like I do on non-delegation, hey man, we might win this in another circuit, but I don't know.
I mean, that one was kind of mystifying to me, just because there was. So, are you saying that they ratified the rule prior to the actual action taking place, even though it wasn't published?
No, but they, my understanding is, I think they can ratify it even after the fact. And I knew that, that's when I was thinking about this at the time, because we had our non-delegation case proceeding at the same time. And I remember, one of the things I like about the non-delegation argument is that it's immune from those types of actions. There's nothing there, the fact the FDA only has the authority they have because of the Tobacco Control Act, the way it's written. And no agency official can do anything to change that fact. And if we were to file that case again in another circuit and win it, there's nothing that could happen apart from Congress, conferring the authority in some other way that's constitutional. So, anyway,
it just seems shady that they can do something and then come back later and go, well, we changed the rule.
Yeah, they do it all the time.
We're going to move the goalpost to the left by 10 yards.
Yeah, no, to me, I don't know. I'm just looking at it as a black and white issue. I'm just saying, at the time, if you haven't ratified the rule at the time the action was taken, I don't see how someone can come back later and then be like, we changed the rule, so now it's retroactive. Now it applies back to the decision that we made previous to this.
Who does that, Tim? You know who does that? children when we were playing games when we were little kids. Remember,
Linda,
Fucking
listen,
changing-
listen, Linda,
Yeah.
listen to me, Linda.
Yeah, we're gonna change the rules now. This is how we used to play the game.
Well,
It's funny.
that's kind of that's one of those arguments that like an appellate lawyer would really like to dive into, and that certainly that could, if I had a client who had suffered some action during the period before the ratification, then yeah, you might be right. But it might be that all that the court held was that going forward, it's been ratified sufficiently. And so, in terms of prospective application of the rule, I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at the case.
Yeah, that's funny you said that, Tim, because I just read an article that said that no one for hundreds, I don't know how long the game's been out, but it said no one plays Monopoly the correct way, the way it's actually written in the box, and nobody plays it the correct way. I thought that was funny, and then I looked at the rules and I go, that doesn't make, we never played it like that.
Well, I mean, in the rules of fair play, I think moving forward, I think the way I play the game Uno, the outcome is going to be totally different. So, and then this question goes back more to Allison and Travis, because you guys are more boots on the ground. But Travis brought up the aspect of people being available to field questions about businesses that have been approached by the FDA on site and in their face. Have you gotten a lot of statements back from lots of different businesses where this is happening rather readily? Or
the FDA was just in our shop, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just curious because I haven't, I've heard a few.
And we called Jerad.
Yeah, I've heard a few people talk about it. I just haven't. I was just curious how rampant it actually is.
Yeah.
I would say at least 2 or 3 times a week on average, a conversation I'm having with a member that there's, they're dealing with something, a visit, a letter. So, it's, and it kind of comes in waves, and it's really weird because you can you can see where it's peaking, kind of like a little hot spot that's going on. And but, ultimately it's just being informed and knowing what not to do. So don't sign anything without fully reading it and completely understanding it. Yeah. So, or at least reading it with your attorney. That's the most important thing. Or Jerad.
I don't get anybody that owns a business that signs something without a lawyer.
Well, there's
especially when it's a government involved. Especially when
it's the fear factor that the
I know it's fair, but affordability and money. All right, Jerad, I want you, because we all know how court works. We've all seen TV. We've all seen how the whole process goes. For this case go through the process. Is there an opening statement? How's the process go along? Because I think that's kind of an interesting thing for our viewers.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Well, yeah, that's a good question. So, you start the case, you file a complaint, which is really just like the argument is not fleshed out. It's just the basic, you're stating your cause of action. That's all that's been done so far. The government's going to they have 60 days after they're served to answer. So, and if I don't push it faster than that, nothing would happen for a while. But I'm sure we're going to end up moving very soon for a preliminary injunction. And that allows us to basically force like a mini trial as soon, essentially, as it's necessary based on the relief that's necessary. So if that happens, if we get a hearing on that, which I would expect to happen, we would be able to put on evidence. But yeah, it would start with it'd be like a mini trial. You have an opening statement. If there's evidence, if there are factual disputes that require evidence, you would put witnesses on the stand, you put documents and evidence, etc. And then you argue it. There's an argument after the evidence is all on the record about where the judge asks questions and tries to understand, and then the judge would have to make a ruling, and then whoever loses the injunction phase could appeal that ruling. And the courts will work as fast as the situation demands, So if we're saying that, we need relief by X date, generally the courts are going to respond to that. So,
Well, we do have an end date. It's like we know that's coming up. So, yeah. So, Allison, question? Sammy?
I mean, I think I just wanted to, I think it's kind of just touch on what you talked about earlier with, everybody kind of coming together. I think like it's very important to recognize like, that we're not big tobacco. We don't have big tobacco funding. We don't have the money to just fight and keep fighting. So the more of us that we can come together, get on the same page and kind of fight together, the better, because it's a better chance of us having some kind of success. And I think it's great to see kind of everybody coming together. And I just want to see more of that because we are stronger together. We're all fighting for the same goal and the same outcome, hopefully.
So the injunction phase, that injunction would do what? So that would stop. That would
stop enforcement, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would. It would. An injunction would prohibit the FDA from enforcing the PMTA rule, pending the resolution of the case.
So that would stop any further MDOs to come out, or that would look back and put an injunction on anybody else who's facing an MDO or looking for a response period?
Well, I mean, a lot of these situations present new and interesting questions, and that may be one of them. The FDA, and it depends what their position is. They might say, okay, well, you're enjoining the final rule. Well, just like we issued, 5,000, whatever it was, MDOs before we issued the final rule, we can continue denying applications for your synthetic PMTAs, whatever. I don't know. Like there's different ways it could go. I think that would be a pretty bold position. If they did that, I think that would spark like new arguments on our side. Like, you're changing the rule without going through notice and comment and whatnot now that the final rule's there. So short answer is it could be complex. And we've just got to be fluid and be able to, roll with the punches. But yeah, generally an injunction would mean they can enforce the PMTA rule, which should mean that they've got to, withhold enforcement until it's figured out, until they do the proper analysis. Or, the court, it's also possible the court could say, well, a lot of times in what's possible here in a case like this, because it's primarily a legal argument, and the judge might think it's entirely a legal argument, and we don't need any witnesses or anything. It's really just a matter of you look at the FDA's rationale for certifying no impact on small businesses, and does that make sense? And I'm presenting our argument as basically a legal argument. What could happen is the judge accelerates the trial on the merits and basically combines it with the injunction phase. So you just have one hearing, let's say, like you have a greatly accelerated like briefing and trial basically, and then the judge decides it, and he might decide. I mean, he might decide that I don't think we met. You met your burden, plaintiffs, or he might, if he rules for us, he could say, so I'm remanding the rule to the FDA to conduct the proper analysis under the RFA. He doesn't have to affirmatively prohibit them from enforcing the rule in the interim, and the statute says that directly. He could, in different situations would call for different things. So certainly we'll be arguing. You have really hoodwinked the small businesses in this industry. We're providing a vital service. I'm going to try to build a record in this case. This is one of the things that's important here is this case presents the opportunity to produce a factual narrative that refutes the FDA's mischaracterizations because they've gotten by in all these other APA cases that have proceeded. There's no discovery. It's basically, it's all on the administrative record. And so the FDA controls that. And so they kind of say what they want. They refer to their statements in the administrative record that are already there, and there's no way to refute those. with evidence or whatnot, unless you get the court to allow you to do that. What I'm going to do here is fight very hard to put evidence in the record that, for example, everybody I've talked to, and you guys know this, all these business owners know that 98% approximately of their sales are of flavored products. Adults are not buying tobacco and menthol flavored stuff. I mean, the percentage of it is very small.
Right.
So that fact right there, we could build a record from all the businesses that are participating here that want to submit their statements to me, affidavits, can verify that. What percentage of products do you sell that are flavors versus tobacco and menthol? And I think that'd be a very powerful counter narrative, to refute the FDA's lies about that.
That's something we did with our PMTAs, and we have Vend as a POS system, but we were able to go back to a certain date. And I think we went back as far as when the age changed to 21 to not include, the 18 and 19 and 20-year-old customers before that law went into effect, and able to actually put it into an Excel file and just make a graph of how many customers were using what flavors in I think the tobacco flavors overall, I think it was like 6% of our 16 locations across South Carolina. Like, that's not going to keep anybody in business.
Yeah. God, that'd be a great number just for all the shops to put together. I mean, I never even thought about that. I never even thought about that. It's like, adults do buy. Question for you. This is kind of wishful thinking. I kind of asked you the similar question earlier, but what is the chance that the FDA, and I don't even know if this does take place during or before a trial, is there a sit down? Is there something, I don't know, like, maybe I watch too much court TV, but like a deal. Let's have a sit down. This is what we're going to throw on the table. I love Travis's smile. He's like, John's living in fucking fantasy land. Hey, you see it on TV all the time. I know criminal cases and that's a little different, but I just assume that, if there's a deal to be made, even in this type of trial, defendant or whatever, there's going to be a sit down and there would be actually, hey, we'll do this, you do that. Is that a possibility? Is that something that even occurs at this level?
Yeah, it does, but it depends on the case and the specific claims. And I think here that's certainly not a possibility until we get some leverage from the court.
Okay.
And even then, I don't, because again, this is basically a legal argument, and the FDA may just decide, look, we don't lose anything by just going to judgment and appealing and, fighting it out.
And when I said sit down, I made it sound like it was a mafia thing. We're going to have a sit down and we're going to talk about it.
Dark alley back meeting or something like that.
I can see Jerad. I'm going to make you an offer. You can't refuse.
Guys walk up with briefcases on either side. You give up your briefcase first. I'm not giving up mine until you give up yours.
Travis comes in there with a 3-piece suit all pimped out.
And I just pull out a ball peen hammer. Like, hey, what are we doing? So
I brought my heavies. Most of the two big dudes behind you. So all right. So I'm a noob and I'm naive on this particular situation because I'm used to probably your standard kind of court case, or at least the things that I would otherwise see on TV. But being that this is at a whole other level and it's more federal, it's more legal approach towards the government. Are you saying that it's not really a case that's full of particular witnesses and it's just you against the government, Jerad?
Yeah, good question.
And it's open to interpretation. The judge is going to have some discretion about how he views it, and certainly a lot of that is driven by how we present it. It's an interesting scenario because we want it to be a legal argument, because a legal argument, you get essentially it's a better standard of review for us, right? Like if I was challenging the government's math on something and saying, well, you didn't calculate the right number of businesses in this sector of the economy, because you just missed this like part of the state or something. Like you're challenging their factual determinations. That's a harder argument to make. The way I'm presenting this and what I believe it is actually a fundamental logical error in how they applied the RFA, how they did the certification. So that should be easier for us to win. But at the same time, I want to make a record of certain facts, and that's especially relevant at the injunction phase because the equities are important there, and that's where we can really argue that that it's really important to leave these products on the market in the meantime, and so we need an injunction while this is figured out, et cetera.
Okay,
Right.
so that goes to my part B of that question. So even if you're the only one standing in front of the judge and making the actual argument, obviously it's burden of proof, right? So you're making the claim that the RFA was violated and that it is impacting a lot of these small businesses. Are you going to bat with, say, the financial statements of those businesses to show that what the revenue was prior to the PMTA process, as opposed to how they were impacted post?
Oh, sure, but I think we're for this argument, we're challenging their lack of analysis of alternatives with respect to the final rule, and so I think what's precisely relevant would be the costs of doing a PMTA and showing facts that X number of businesses are going to have to shut their doors if there's not a pathway that's made available. Those kind of things. How much money people have spent to go through this testing stuff, and then the FDA says, "Oh, well, they changed the standard afterwards anyway." More so like facts showing the costs of the PMTA process itself, and then the effect of that on the businesses.
Right.
And a small business is 1,500 or less employees, and most of these, even us, we have 16 locations and we have 48 employees. So we're nowhere near that 1,500.
And the percentage, the majority of the industry, when you really look at it, is in that classification of a small business. And, that's why it's really important that, as Jerad said, he's going to put together a survey and, figure it all out to where, maybe we can have people reach out. We can get this record put together and really put it into the courts. So that way, I don't think there's any way that we could show, a financial damage or anything along those lines, but definitely show, what a business can afford, what a business of this scale making this much a year would be able to afford when you look at this giant cost for the PMTA for one product. So,
and then maintaining the PMTA,
Yeah.
because it's not just, yes, you have this, marketing grant order and then you can stay on the market forever. You have to maintain that PMTA.
Yeah. And that's much harder than the PMTA. So,
and that's for life. Is that what you're saying, Allison? So is that something yearly?
I mean, they could change the standard and then you don't meet that, and then you could not meet. Yeah.
And they're known for that, moving the goalpost.
But you do get a moment of reprieve, like, so you'll have a chance to try to meet the standard.
Yeah, it's probably the same standard that they normally give. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, really looking at it and looking at the next steps, a lot of, the PMTA process and the approval process, yes, we know how hard it is. But when you look at a marketing, where they're granting a marketing order to where you can sell, you have to maintain that. And that means that every bit of information that you're using, every place that it is, any of that changes, constant updates. I mean, you might as well you'll probably have a direct person that you'll just, be able to communicate with and keep it up. So Mark Anton had a lot of interesting points on that and has some experience with understanding that side of things. So this is just phase one. And once we get past this, if we get a positive ruling and we do create some effective change for the pathway for small businesses, that's the next step. I mean, that's literally going to be going into the next fight. So we're merely focusing on one and then going to the next. So,
all right, Jerad, hate to ask you this question. Worst case scenario, what do you do after it?
If we lose the lawsuit?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Travis may have just been alluding to that, but I said it earlier. There's other arguments that I see that can and maybe should be made. One of them that I think should be made, brought up again, is the non-delegation argument. We lost that in the Fifth Circuit. The Supreme Court, I felt like we were close to them taking it. You know, you're reading tea leaves, but just the timing of it, and the fact there are some tea leaves to read. I mean, they required the FDA to file a response to our petition, which basically like jumps your chances of they only do that in a small number of cases, and if they do that, then your chances of being taken up on cert jump to like 20 or 40%, and that's where we were. But our petition was arrived at the court at the very end of that period when they're taking cases for the next term, and they already had a full term. So that may be one of the reasons that they didn't take it. Sometimes these issues percolate up multiple times before the court takes the issue, and this could be one of them. I really think so. The non-delegation case, and to my mind, is still very much on the table. If I had a client who wanted to bring that tomorrow, I would bring that in whatever other circuit. And so, I'm thinking about that. I think there are other arguments. There may be other APA arguments that we attach to this lawsuit or bring in a separate lawsuit. Let's see. Depending on, I'll dangle something out there for that I've talked about before. We're still waiting to see what's going to happen ultimately with all these MDO appeals that are pending in all these different circuits, and now you've got a circuit split. We won a case in the 11th Circuit, but of course other circuits have ruled the other way. So those cases could go to the Supreme Court, or they could die out, and we'll see what the FDA does on remand with our clients. If our 11th Circuit case stands, there's a possibility that people who got an MDO, even if you didn't challenge that MDO already in the circuit court, you can still bring a standard APA challenge, bringing the same arguments in a district court. And, so now we've got a precedent hanging out there that would support those challenges in the 11th Circuit. I'll talk more about that later, but that's still on the table, and there's plenty of time to bring those.
Right.
What do you get when you cross the Godfather with a lawyer? An offer you can't understand.
Hey, Kyle, I just want to give a shout out to Kyle Redden. He's one of our ESIG Charleston managers. He's been tuning in, and I love that, keeping up with everything that's going on. And yes, cigars definitely get a pass.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, shit. Every senator, they got to have their cigar and whiskey and golf. I mean, without those, can you imagine how the country would be run if they took the golf and the cigars and the whiskey away from our senators and Congress?
Yeah.
Jesus, you want to talk about pissed off people?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a way to get them involved in this fight? I know they don't have a foot in the or a toe in the water, but is there a way to get them to say, hey, you guys are next? If you don't help us out here, you guys could be next. Nobody wants to touch
I haven't,
that.
I haven't thought of it like that. I think early, at one point in time, Jerad and I did discuss that, but they got that special extension,
they did,
and all that stuff, so it just kind of washed away. But it was an opportunity, especially if you look at the small scale, hand roll cigar folks.
You want to know what I noticed happened right after that went through? I noticed a lot of cigar shops opened up, especially in Arizona and California.
Yeah, they're big here in Charleston too.
Yeah. Now that you say that, I think here in Austin, you're right. I've seen that a lot more. Yeah.
I know two buddies that opened up right after that. It's like, okay, that's my go. That's my green light to go ahead and open up my cigar bar. And it's too bad we can't get them involved in some way. They have to realize that eventually they're going to be next. They're going to come after them.
I thought the premium cigars were given the reprieve. Basically, those are untouchable. But I do think that the flavored cigarillo people and
Swiss or sweets,
all that stuff, I think that they're gonna. I mean, I was Red and brought the question up, right? I mean, this is exactly what we were talking about, and I don't have an answer other than the article that I found directly from the FDA that they kind of gave two different pathways depending on which bucket you fell into. And I do believe that the flavored stuff is going to be coming under some significant more scrutiny than, the guy with the big old, Cuban, hanging out in the smoke shop. But I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know. And
the FDA's the treatment, the exception that they carved out for premium cigars may provide a lot of traction for us. Some as a regulatory alternative for the kind of thing they should have considered here, because from what one of the things the FDA did with premium cigars is they said, don't file your PMTAs. We're going to do our own testing, and then we'll let you know, what we decide later on, parameters or whatever.
How is a combustible product held at a different standard as a non-combustible product?
I was thinking too. I mean, a lot of the premium brands are not flavored, so it's your basic cigar, and they're depending on the flavor of the tobacco itself. So that's the appeal. It's this leaf is from here, and this leaf is from here. This is about I very seldomly see a premium cigar that's like listed, maybe vanilla, whiskey, maybe, but very seldom do I see like a premium cigar have a flavor and cherry's another one that's kind of.
Well, I'm going to look at it from a different perspective, and I think outside the fact that a lot of people in the government probably play golf and they don't want to see their cigars disappear.
Right.
I would venture to say that I think the distinct difference here is that cigars aren't looked at as, albeit a tobacco product, not a harm reduction item.
Yeah.
I mean, you could say, okay, I'm not putting the combustion in directly into my lungs. Now I could be getting cancer of the mouth or something to that effect. But also, too, I think the most defining factor here is that where vaping kind of crosses the echelon between adult use and harm reduction in and of its own right, you've got the kid factor there, where it's an attractant for kids. You just don't hear about kids other than the Swisher Sweets and that thing.
Yeah.
They don't flock to the cigar shops or try to get just don't see kids puffing on big old fatty cigars.
That kid's gonna get kicked right out of the cigar shop. And I don't think a kid is gonna spend $60 on a cigar to put a blunt in it.
Yeah, I just don't think they find. I don't think they find that
on a mod and an open tank system. So
Yeah.
That's just how I see the defining factor on premium cigars. But again, the flavor thing, you're right, John. My dad used to sell tobacco. He was a tobacco salesman for a period of time when I was young, and he worked for American Tobacco, and you could smell the cherry tobacco in there. We had a Chevy Nova with friggin' felt like rubber seats, but that car smelled like a tobacco factory.
Move those cigars over, son.
That and pipe tobacco too probably would be sort of.
My dad smoked a pipe.
Yeah. Same kind of thing. It's like you just don't see kids gravitating to
I was in the backyard trying to figure out how to smoke.
I could never do it right. I could never get it down.
No, I inhaled a lot of tobacco.
If I were a kid, no, I better not say it. I would buy the Gandalf fucking pipe and just sit in my front yard holding this Gandalf pipe.
Well, I just saw it as so regal. Like my dad would be sitting in the TV room,
super Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, and I'd be like, damn, Dad, you look cool.
You know what though? They've kind of stayed out of it. I don't see anything from the pipe people either. I mean, there's no fight there. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I just don't see a 13-year-old, sneak into the boys' bathroom to smoke their cherry flavored pipe.
No, and similarly, we have vape pipes. I mean, there are vape pipes, with the Gandalf stems and the whole nine. So I mean, I guess there is some kind of a breaching, component to it that they tried to make it kind of look cool or whatever. So but you just, I don't have one. I need to get one.
Oh, any questions? Questions.
Well, I think you asked the big one. So I mean, because I guess it's really all about the end game here. So, I mean, if there is, so you were asked about what happens if there is ultimately a loss. What reverberates if ultimately you get a win?
Yeah, party. No,
that's a good question. Sort of segue from what we were just talking about, because so. In the final rule, the FDA certified no substantial impact on small businesses. So all we're fighting here, all we have to establish is that certification was in error, which means that, so if we win, the rule would be remanded to the FDA to reconsider that certification. And let's say they certify that there would be a substantial impact on small businesses. Then they would have to consider regulatory alternatives to the final rule. At that point, we would be arguing about, what are the kind of alternatives. But we don't actually have to get into like proving there's a reasonable alternative in this case. All we have to show right now is you erroneously claim that there was not a substantial impact on small businesses.
How many law professors does it take to change a light bulb?
It seems like I've heard this one, but I don't know the answer.
Hell, you need 250 just to lobby for the research grant.
I didn't know there were that many lawyer jokes in the world.
Dude, there's one website, Jared, that says these are lawyer jokes you don't tell lawyers, and I stayed away from that page because after I read them, I was like, "Fuck, I can't say those." Oh man.
Well, let me see if there's any questions coming in for me in particular, because my wife's going to kill me if I don't get to dinner.
Yeah.
And I didn't see anything directly coming in through the commentary specifically. I think most people are just sort of listening with open ears and just trying to understand and wrap their heads around exactly what's going on.
Oh God,
a lot of exasperation on a lot of people's faces because they just feel like I'll go with who was it? I can't remember his name now. Stu Rep, where he said I think vaping is going to be okay.
I like that one.
Well, I'll add something here, just sort of big picture context. What the and I'm not the USVA, but I'm working for the USVA, right? I mean, thinking about these challenges and litigating the ones that we bring. But one thing I've noticed, like the USVA really is the whole mission from the beginning has been and is to represent the particular interests of small businesses, which is something that has been overlooked as I've seen it in, some of the other challenges brought, like the improper, authorization of the rule, that would benefit everybody if they win, right? But some of the things that the FDA seems to want to latch onto, which would still leave, every one of you out in the cold, the small businesses, like, as soon as, and I don't even remember which big tobacco company it was, Juul or somebody, but RJ Reynolds proposed this biometric like security device that would lock a vaping device unless you have your fingerprint, validation.
That was Juul.
Yeah.
Just completely absurd. I mean, think of the cost of that. That's the kind of thing that only RJ Reynolds can develop and roll out, right, nationwide, and then they monopolize the market. All of the small businesses go under, and it's the same old crap again. And the FDA, of course, they did in these MDO appeals. They've said it in my cases. As soon as that application was filed, that's one of the facts that the FDA wanted to tout before these courts, these appellate judges, saying, "See, look, this company, Juul, is proposing something that we might actually agree would be a reasonable thing to, this is the sort of novel marketing restriction that we might pass through a PMTA." Well, somebody has to be out there bringing arguments on behalf of small businesses, because that's not going to help anybody in this group, in the USVA. So, and that's one of the reasons that things like the RFA don't get litigated a lot, because it takes an effort, it takes resources to do it, and so more of the case law you get is raising other arguments, where these big companies can have the wherewithal to go, they've got regulatory capture anyway, and then they can capture the courts sometimes.
Yeah.
But they're not making necessarily the arguments that are going to help everybody.
Yeah.
No.
Right.
Yeah, one of the things that I kind of pisses me off, and I brought it up in some tweets before, but you never hear either side, our side or the FDA or any other government agency, talk about just enforcing T21. I mean, there's no numbers that show that they're enforcing T21. There's no stings that you hear about. I haven't heard about a tobacco sting, and I can't tell you, since the 80s, the late 80s, I think is the last time I was actually in the store. And it was funny is I turned around and I knew the kid was younger than me, and I didn't think about it, but I was like, oh, go ahead. You only got one thing. He had a 6-pack. And I was like, yeah, go ahead, go in front of me. And then bam, they busted him like 2 minutes later, and I couldn't buy my shit because they came storming in. But I haven't seen one of those in a long time. And I don't see anybody ever talking about the actual enforcement of that law and what our local police or whoever is in charge of taking care of that actually enforcing that. And that never comes up. And I don't understand why neither side ever. I can understand why the FDA doesn't talk about it, but I don't understand why we don't talk about that that's not something that we feel is not being enforced in the United States nowhere.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right.
I mean, I don't even see numbers. I used to hear Modesto, they would post it in the Modesto Bee, this store, this store, this store, this store. It was always listed the stores that got busted.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen that. And of course, nobody has a newspaper anymore, but I haven't seen any of those numbers. Like, hey, yeah, we got the 7-Eleven on McHenry, and we got the Quick Stop on Floyd. But yeah, I mean, it just seems funny to me that we don't ever bring that up. And why isn't this being enforced?
Here in Texas, we have the TABC. So, and with the TABC, that's who just kind of handles it all. And they do stings here. So, I'm right here in Austin, and you see them rolling around. So,
do you think they started those stings after vaping got to this point, or were they doing it prior to that, or just kind of seldomly, and now all of a sudden, okay, let's go after vaping, and now it's just been the same?
I think it's kind of random. TABC, they handle, alcohol, tobacco,
right.
And and then, your sports bars and things along those lines. So alcohol. So yeah, it's really up to them. They go in, and I'm sure they just check a wide variety. And if vaping obviously is popular among, teens and the disposables and the small devices, and the easiest place to get them, as we all know, is convenience stores.
Yeah.
So of course, that's where they're going to be. And it's also why we get roped in and looped in with convenience store data.
Yeah.
So, that's a completely different subject, but that's another unfortunate thing that we battle all the time is those numbers that are there. They're bad. They look bad on us because they don't really show what
it was a convenience store. Yeah. Because what's his name?
South Carolina, I think it was like almost 6,000 violations,
wow.
And like 50 of them were vape shops.
Right.
Everything else was a convenience store or grocery store. Right. So we know how to fix the problem.
Right.
You put vaping in adult-only licensed vape shops.
Yeah.
Right.
With people that are educated on how to sell them, who verify age. And you can eliminate, not completely, because you can't eliminate any problem completely, but you can make that number a fraction of what it is and appease them. But at the end of the day, that they don't want to hear that as an option because it's not about the kids.
Yeah, personally, myself, I think you should triple and double the fines, triple those fines.
Yeah, make it count, so they
just
don't
like
do it
in
again.
Australia, just like in Australia. Those fines, when Paul brings up fines in Australia, my mouth just drops because we're not talking a few $1,000s. We're talking 10, 20,
for a convenience store, that's not going to
80.
hurt as much as it is for a small business. So if you made it only licensed vaping shops, you would be able to do that because people would not want to pay that again.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah, even with the small amount of fines that are out there now for being busted, I mean, why would even a shop, or I know a shop wouldn't because they value their business, but what is it? What is a convenience store making on a pack of cigarettes?
Because they
Or
don't
they
care.
don't
They don't
make a couple
care. It's just a
nickels.
job for them.
Yeah, I
But
know.
somebody
Right?
behind a counter in a vape shop, they're like, they care.
Yeah.
They're helping people quit smoking. The guy behind the counter at a Circle K is not.
Yeah.
He's just selling you what you're asking for.
Well, here in California, you got to get busted 3 times before they take your driver's license away from you. I think that's
too lenient. Yeah.
So here's something that I've talked about a lot, and this is a conversation that Jerad and I've had a few times just to talk about, introducing legislation at a state level. And what it really needs is I know Bill Wilkstorm, he's out of Mississippi, and he's the president of their state-based organization. They actually got some legislation passed that kind of defined, gave some parameters around, vaping. And I think something like that on the state level, to where, these connections that the state orgs have, if we had some universal, legislation that we could all push that kind of classified what is e-liquid, and then, created some sort of breakdown for, actions that for the youth that are in violation of the law and they're accessing a product that they are not of age to possess. Yeah. So, losing their license, I don't understand. Why is it not, why is there not, an equal push at the regulatory level as well at the enforcement level for the issue? You know what I mean? And
if you were going to lose that license the first time, you would never, ever even try.
Yeah.
So, and not only that, but, you really look at it, you start getting parents more involved, because it really breaks down and boils down to parenting. At the end of the day, kids are going to do what kids do. We know that, right?
Yeah.
So, but if you're an active and involved parent, you're going to know what's going on with your kid.
Exactly.
And, I've got 2 of them, and both teenagers. So both girls. And trust me,
God bless you.
I've been through it. I know what's there. And I know that if I'm successful in this, to where my kids, they come home from school and they tell me, they're just vaping in the bathroom, and they're this. Oh yeah, they hide it here and this and that. Oh, they get it from a senior in school that gets it from his cousin. And it's like, if I know this, and like, I think I've been to the school a couple times this year. If I know this, I'm sure the school knows this. But again, it's the enforcement, it's the parenting, and you really start making that enforcement include the parents. Like, kid screws up the first time and has to do community service the second time. Well, mom and child, or dad or parents, or the whole family, everybody has to do community service. Things start to change then when you have to carve that time out. And parenting, it'd be a lot easier to make you not vape until, you were of age.
Yeah,
so,
I had to spend 2 hours sitting at community service for my son, because I told him, they changed the law on the scooters, the gas powered scooters. I told my son, stay on our street and you'll be okay. There's the likelihood of a cop coming down our street is very slim. No, he had to go out to he needed to go get his 44-ounce soda and rode it over there, $75 ticket. And I had to go sit in that stupid thing with him. And I looked at him and I said, this has never happened again, because I don't want to waste my Saturday. And even like my dad, back in the 80s, I broke a window. I paid for that window. Yeah. I mean, there's nothing there. There's no slap in the wrist. It's just, he's under pressure. I'm working 3 jobs. Hey man, my dad worked 2 jobs. My mom babysit 15 kids. I mean, they were busy too, and I assumed responsibility for my actions. And it just seems like these kids don't do that. They have no responsibility, and the parents, they just plead that, I'm really busy card. And I get everybody's busy, but it's your kid. And like we said with the Juul, I mean, if your kid is spending $100 a week on something, I want to know what my kid is spending $100. If they're vaping two Juul cartridges a day, that's a fucking serious habit. And that's not a cheap habit back then. Even back then, they were back then, they were about 19, right? For a 4-pack. I think it was about $19.
$19.99. Yeah.
Yeah. So
roughly that.
Yeah, that's a lot of fucking money for a 15, 16-year-old kid to come up with, even if he's working at Taco Bell.
Yeah. Those numbers are inflated. You saw that youth survey. They
Yeah.
didn't they didn't even know what they were using.
Yeah,
If you're a vapor, you know what you use.
Yeah.
If you don't know what you're using, it means it's because you tried somebody else's one time.
Yeah.
Well, guys,
Jerad, go eat dinner. Go eat dinner.
Go eat dinner.
Yeah, I don't want to see you in the newspaper.
We need you, Jerad. Go eat dinner.
Don't make her angry. Thanks again, Jerad. We really appreciate you taking the time and joining the show.
No, my pleasure. Great questions. Look forward to being on again. Hopefully I can be on and explain a victory again.
Yeah.
We'll be waiting.
We'll have a party. We'll invite Snoop Dogg to it. And we'll do it. We'll all do the little dance.
Okay.
Thanks, Jerad.
Thank you, Jerad.
Thanks, guys.
See ya.
Good night.
Travis, I have a question for you. After this victory, did you get any increased memberships, or did you get some calls from the other outside groups and asking you your process, how you guys are going about it, how can we help? Did you get any of those calls?
I didn't directly, but I know a lot of, I have a lot of people in place that are there to, field these questions and have these communications, because for me, it was a great victory. It was really good, but it doesn't, take the focus off of what we were preparing for.
Right.
And a lot of what I do is a lot of communicating with Jerad and then finding the right people to get him educated on a particular situation, subject within the industry. So that way he can, kind of navigate it a little bit easier, but he does a good job himself as well. Okay. So, membership, it's not something that we're constantly out there trying to push, that we're just, running it up. And, I'll be real honest with you, with the way that the economy is, more than anything, is we have, a lot of our small business members that, are in a tough spot. And whenever they're in this tough spot with the way that the economy is, they got to start, cutting some things. And it's like, they've been a member for a really long time. And some of those things that we do for our membership is, if you kind of hit a hurdle, you got a little dip in business, we all kind of communicate around, see if we can help each other out a little bit. Yeah. And, so with our members, anytime that they start struggling in any kind of way, they call, and I love it, because, we're all in this fight together. And, all of us being in business, it's one of those things, you kind of hit a wall at one point, you just don't know what direction to go, and having someone to reach out to, and a lot of people in the industry that we rely on within our membership is, keeps us busy. So keeps us real busy.
What was that 5,000? That's for the year, correct? Membership for the year?
No. It's 1,200 is the 1 year membership.
That was the named plaintiff. I think,
that one. That one's that one's no longer available. So now we're just break it down. It's simple, man. $100 and $100 a month. If you want to pay 6 months, it's $600. If you want to pay a year, it's $1,200. Yeah. And then from that point, you're automatically pulled in, and you're part of the tribe. We're here to fight. So
with that being said, explain a little bit about what comes with the membership. Is there phone calls, conversations, emails, and stuff like that? How's that all come together? You guys have meetings every once a month, or?
Yeah. So basically, we really keep it pretty straightforward, honestly. We're all business owners, we're all busy, and it's really easy to get distracted with a bunch of noise. And again, all of us are in business. So, we all focus on, what's going on, where we currently are, what quick action needs to be taken. And then if there's no quick action that needs to be taken, then it's just, slow and steady. We're focused in on one thing. We're moving forward. We're updating folks as needed. I don't want to, I always say, and the biggest thing that helps is people like Amber and Allison that, they're in tune. They're out there. They're keeping everything in line and knowing what's going on the regulatory aspect, the advocacy aspect. And, from that point, we know what we need to focus on. They kind of filter it out for us.
Don't steal Allison from us, okay?
No way, dude. No.
You can have Tim. You know.
Yeah. So, but no, we, with what we do is, we don't believe, or I don't believe, and everybody kind of agrees with me, there's a time to sound the alarm, and then there's time just to get your head down, keep your head down, and keep focused on your business. Let us kind of sift through and figure out what's going on, and yeah, it does take a lot of communicating with other groups, state-based groups, and other national groups, and again, it's just that communication. And here lately, I've been seeing a lot of good stuff. Everybody's working together, so, and you can't complain when that starts happening.
I don't want to put you on the spot here, but what other group out there has been a big part of your guys at the USVGA? Who EGA? I'm thinking something completely different there. Golf, USVA. Yeah, we are at. Is there any like CASA and these other organizations? What's been a big part of your helping you guys along?
I'll be real honest with you, Nick Orlando with Florida Smoke Free. He's a good guy, man. He moves around. He talks with everybody. And there's been a few times this year where, we've all put our heads together, all the trade organizations. We all got on Zoom. We all listened to each other, just kind of listened to ideas and just kind of cussed and discussed, really. And then whenever there's an emergency, he jumps in. He's a guy that I reach out to quite a bit, Florida Smoke Free. And, we work with them. We've developed a pretty good relationship with them. Obviously, SCVA, just the same type of communication. ABM, I know, there's a lot of communicating going back and forth, and Amanda's awesome. And we know some of the other folks that are part of it, Greg, but yeah, I mean, I think keeping it open and just keeping it,
I like that. Because I think how it was 5-6 years ago. Everybody was just kind of fighting each other. It's just nice to hear that you guys are all working together, no matter what part of the industry you're representing. It's important right now that there's no more, they're getting all the money, we're not getting any money. That shit needs to stop.
Everybody needs to win. We all fight for the same goal.
Yeah, and that's exactly with the RFA and everything that we're doing right now. That was one of the main things that truthfully, I mean, what better victory is there to have the argument that would just blanketly cover everybody. Yeah. And we see this over and over and over, that the FDA, they've minimized that effect so much to where that's really not even an option to get a blanket ruling nationwide to apply to every single business. So really focusing on making sure that we have the best possible way to get as many people in place that are going to benefit, and then turn around and leave it open for someone else to take that blueprint, take it and run with it, do it, right. So, and there's nothing, that's just the way that we look at it, aside from being just a trade organization, we have to have membership, and then, part of what comes with that is, again, being available. Anything that we come across, any things that are needed as far as, what we do in the industry. So, we push things around, and when the synthetic nicotine stuff took place, we made a quick push, tried to help out membership, and got some nicotine in for folks in a solid and dependable manner, and with a good quality product. And then, again, you just turn around, and a lot of it, dude, is valuing those one-on-one relationships with the members, as automatically you bond with each other because you're going through a fight together. I know what you're going through. Yep. And just to look past the noise, look past the anything that would be residual that's left out there, and let's just look at what's in front of us right now. And with all the other groups, AVM and SFATA and CASA, VTA, all these guys, everybody kind of has their own little area that they're standing in and that they're operating in, and every bit of it's important. And there's no reason why we can't support each other and know what each other's doing. Yeah.
The only one that's losing this is the FDA.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
That's the
they're
bottom line. Yeah.
that's it, man. They win in this. They win in the chaos. They win in the confusion, and really trying to make sure that it's a win for the small businesses. And we had that little one. It's a win, and it's a victory, and it's a big win, especially for the named plaintiffs that took the MDO challenge, and that was somewhat, it was a group effort, and that's one more where everybody came together and made that push, and here we are. We have one. So
I mean, that's the thing. We all have one common enemy. It's not like we have more than one. It's not like there's just this mysterious group that's out there. Personal opinion.
Mm-hmm.
How bad would it be for the industry if California falls?
I mean, automatically, I would say, are we sending aid? Because then there's the bad changes to a different area. Sorry, everybody in California. But no,
I'm moving.
Yeah, that's right. You're there. We'll send up a beacon. We'll come for the ones that we like, that we want to bring back.
Yeah. I mean, if the flavor ban were to pass, how much of a hit would that be on the industry?
Oh, it'd be huge, man.
That's what I meant. I don't mean California actually coming off of the map.
Oh, I was thinking literally.
You guys are terrible. What I thought. You guys are fucking terrible. You guys are evil.
We'll save you, John.
Well,
John, I was waiting for you to tell me to buy a boat.
Yeah. No, I mean, they say that it's going to happen anyway. It's just going to break off, and but I mean, it would be devastating just because of the fact that there's a lot of suppliers that come through there. How's that regulation going to affect the port? How's it going to affect everybody that's there and been operating? Because California has been the spot since vaping came on the scene.
And
man. So, and honestly, I'll be real honest with you. It's taken a hit with what's been happening so far. I mean, it really has. So you look at the giant trade shows, you look at all the things that we were doing, and you just look at how the regulation has just slowly gone and chipped away, and there's not a lot left. It's just the bare bones. It's the OGs. It's the people that have been here and said, hey, I've been in this fight, and we know how this industry works. It always seems to find a way to survive. And I have no doubt in that. And because we're, as an industry, as an industry of a majority small businesses, we find a way and manage. So it's that's the most important thing.
Oh, so. Do you have room for me there, Allison?
I mean, I live in a small townhouse, but you
tell your husband we'll have to upgrade. We'll have to get something bigger on the golf course. I know you got lots of them out there.
We sure do have a lot of golf courses.
That's a scary thing, because I started thinking about that myself, and you're right. I mean, you start looking at the OGs, they're all there in San Diego, just outside the border of Mexico. I can't remember that little town, but God damn it, what is the name of it? There's like a ton of distributors that are right there just on the border, and it always made me wonder, are they there for a reason? Are they there because eventually they can
exit.
quick you haul into Mexico, but then with Mexico's policy on vaping, that wouldn't be a smart move at all either. So I always wondered why they were in that area. I know it's because of money, but cheaper property and still be in the LA area somewhat. But
here, I'll tell you one here. This is a funny one. I have things going on in multiple areas, but I got a few buddies that are working down there along the border, and the number one thing that they're starting to see are Mexicans from Mexico trying to smuggle dual pods. No, I'm being serious. I'm so serious right now. I mean, they're knockoffs, dude. That's horrible. They're literally smuggling them into Mexico.
Yeah.
So like that is it is pretty amazing. Like I seen pictures of one of the cars, dude, and it was like Juul knockoff mods and pods, like that was said mint and some horrible font, and just looked like a special.
Mint-ish.
Yeah, just out, So, but no, dude, they had that car, just everything was lined, and I was just like,
That's what you get with
I'm
prohibition.
starting to see something here. There might be an opportunity. I didn't say that. I never said that. So.
Yeah, we've had Tony on the show. It was at that time he was the CEO or CFO of Zamblebox, and he talked about a scenario that kind of scared me, and that was a scenario where they all just leave. They all just leave and go to some foreign country and manufacture and produce our e-liquid and everything from the outside of the U.S. and then ship it into it. I mean, that's a scary thought. And I'm not saying that they can't produce the same quality product we're getting here, but there might be some standard changes being now that, hey, we're here. We can get away with this grade of nicotine.
You're seeing it now with the fake disposables.
Right.
And that's part of the crackdown. So, this will very soon, it'll start rolling out. But basically there's going to be a big push towards the first of the year to where anything coming in to the United States it will be mandatory. An acceptance letter that comes in for it to even come into the United States. So, or else it'll just be held and kept because the FDA, they're in full force, So,
it's a scary scenario. Scenario.
Yeah, it really is. And that's why, of course there are elements of what we all use that come from there and that don't need an acceptance letter. But, it's one of those things where, that's where American made. This is truly, you look at juice manufacturers, you look at, anybody that's doing this stuff, that's making the juice here, they're producing, they're making, and they're selling, that's an American made product, So, and I would completely, support us being in reducing regulation in enough of a ways to where we could actually make a lot of this stuff here ourselves, but it's just not, it's just the regulatory process and, just the entire environment and the enforcement agencies that exist. It makes it impossible to do certain things.
It really makes me angry to think that we've gotten to the point where that logo, that saying, means more to people outside of the U.S. than it does to us here in the U.S. I mean, we could care less if it says made in the U.S. anymore. But for instance, let's take mech mods, for instance. Let's talk about them. The push for American-made mech mods in Europe. They would rather have that than any other Japanese, Chinese mod. They wanted that stamp. They wanted to see that seal on their mod, made in the U.S., TVL, whoever else is building out here, AV. That was more important to them than us. We were buying all the Japanese crap like crazy. And these guys in Australia, in the UK, everywhere else is like, no, I want to see that. I want to see that stamp at the bottom of my mod that says made in the US. And it's just sad that's, through this, I'm 54 years old. So I've seen the transition, somewhat of how the quality of American made meant something to my generation to where it is today, where it's like, fuck, I don't care. It could be made in Taiwan, Japan, China. I could care less.
That's one of the most unfortunate things about what America has turned into, and what the idea of consumerism is it's look at the rate that everything is produced and kicked out. Look at the rate that it changes. So you get it, you hold it. It's very temporary. Nothing is permanent. And if you buy a table from IKEA, you might get 6 months out of it, maybe a year.
Just don't move it. Just don't move it.
Just don't move it. Yeah. So, there's a lot, man, a lot that affects just because it's give it to me now, it's instant gratification and then just consume and not to go 80s on you, but consume, obey, that's just really what you start to see all over, all again and again and again.
Well, that was my dad. My dad was, if that he would ask the fucking guy, "Is that TV made in the U.S.?"
My stepdad
Yes.
is still that
Okay.
way.
Bam.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
If
buying
I buy him a
Chevy.
sweater for Christmas, he's checking the label to see if
made in
it's
the U.S. And it's just sad that that's more important to people outside of the U.S. than it is to anyone else, to us here. I mean, even Canada. I mean, they were buying U.S. made mods like freaking crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. UK, everybody. We'd have guys in our group that would laugh at us Americans because we were buying, these Japanese mods or Chinese mods, and they're like, American steel, American logo, American spring. I go, well, I don't know about the spring, but I know maybe the steel comes from us.
It worked for 3 months. It's enough.
That's the crazy thing. It's just like, they would do that same saying, do you want to buy this mod and it lasts you 2-3 months, or do you want to buy this quality US made mod that's going to last you a lifetime? It's just sad to see that.
And now because of regulation, that can't happen.
Nope.
So
everybody, they have all closed their doors, right, Travis? I think TVL's out.
Yes, TV. Yeah, TVL. I think so. I don't know. I don't really follow the modders, and I did early, early on. So, but no, I'm not too sure of many that are left, and it's hard for them. They're getting into a territory, and one of them, a few that I've run into, they got into a territory where the FDA didn't know what to do, so and didn't know how to go about it, and I just kind of left them with that answer.
Yeah.
And but then eventually just denied them. So I mean, that's just the reality of it. But I do know some folks got clearance, got acceptance on some stuff.
What they have to do here, I'm giving you guys some advice out there, modders. You build your Mac mod so it can be quickly converted into a flashlight in a second, and they will leak. It can't bother you. They cannot touch you. This is a flashlight that I sometimes use to vape.
My boss. Exactly what
That's all you got to do. It's like, hey, this is a TVL mod. No, this is a TVL flashlight. And I can quickly, that 510 fitting. You can put anything on a 510 fitting. If I want a flashlight, I got a flashlight.
Yeah. Exactly.
We already have the RDAs. Everybody already has the RDAs. Just sell the mod. Just sell the tube with the flashlight unit on it, and leave you alone. It's crazy.
It is. It is.
It's just a scary thought for me. Not just because I live here in California. I understand that the economic impact that it would generate for this state to just say no more flavors, and the way they're trying to set it up now. I think Gavin Newsom has realized: do I want stuff coming into California? See, that's the thing that they're fighting over right now, because a lot of people are saying, well, wait a minute. If you're going to take flavors away and let people from the outside bring it in, why not let these people that have shots that are making this product actually make money in our state instead of generating funds for another state? Because what's going to happen. Nevada, Colorado, Arizona, to Texas.
All my friends in New York drive across the border to Jersey or Connecticut to get what they need. Yeah.
I mean, if you look at half of the distributors that are on the southern border, what's going to stop them from packing up, moving into Arizona, and then saying, hey, you're not going to stop any shipments coming in? Now he's trying to throw in this tax. Yeah. Now the tax thing is coming in. So when you ship, you're going to be charged taxes on both states. I'm like, you motherfucker, man.
Yeah. No, and I do know that, when a lot of the regulations started to happen there in California, I do know that there were some folks that did pick up and move here. So vape shops included. So it's real.
Sample Box moved 3 times. 3 times. They moved from Washington to LA, and then LA to Phoenix, and then because they figured, well, what was going on? Remember in the beginning there with Washington, the state of Washington. So they just said, we can't do that. We just can't afford to stay in business here in Washington. Then moved into Southern California, and then with all the nonsense was going on in Southern California, they moved over back into Phoenix, Arizona.
We joke about that all the time. Go from East Charleston to East Jacksonville.
And then, well, actually, I'm sorry, it's 4 times, because they had to leave Phoenix because of some regulations where the post office, they were no longer allowed to ship in that. So they moved back into Southern. So I think they're back in Southern California. So 4 times. That's insane. Well, Travis, I want to thank you for joining us and being part of our show tonight. Thank you, Allison, for always coming up with some amazing guests. And Timmy, you did a good job. We're gonna send you to work with Travis and Jared. We're keeping Allison. So
cool. All right. That'll work.
Not a week's vacation for two in Bora Bora.
I'm sure Travis will throw in some sort of sweet deal in there.
All right, I think.
And I mean, you don't want to live in Georgia for the rest of your life. I mean, Texas. Come on, man.
Well, you say everything's bigger in Texas, and as long as I've been living here, my stomach keeps getting bigger. So,
think of those.
Take my big old belly to Texas.
Yeah, think of all that. Well, I was gonna say think of all that great barbecue, but you have pretty good damn barbecue in Georgia.
Yeah, we got some okay stuff.
I think there's a good fight between Texas barbecue and Georgia barbecue. I'm sure there'd be a good fight there, but I would go. The big steak. What was that? You can't get a great tomahawk steak anywhere other than Texas, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
He's not buying. Yeah, man.
If you can eat the whole thing, that would be very impressive. But if you can,
you give me the right day, I could eat the whole thing.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Easy. So easy.
That's a big piece of meat, man.
Yeah. There's a place here. It's called Style Switch. So it's a place you can walk right in. It's smoked tomahawk. They'll pull it off, grill it. It's $100 right off the bat.
Right off the bat.
Yeah.
They don't ask if you want a potato, do they?
No.
That's a garnish.
I could see him go. You want a tomato and potato and a salad with that? You'd be like, but you need the greens. You need to eat the salad when you're eating that steak to help digest it.
Yeah.
I know the trick.
I just wouldn't eat for about 3 days after or before. So just go. You know.
You at least get a T-shirt that says you ate the whole thing?
No.
Shit.
You get the receipt.
The
bill. That's it. That's what you get. So yeah, man.
All right. Thanks again, Travis.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Allison. We'll see everybody next Wednesday at 6 p.m. Same channel, same place. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Peace.